All right, everyone, thanks for having me. It's been a really awesome conference. I'm so happy to be chosen to be a keynote speaker, and it was awesome to get the conference started off with an amazing presentation by Mats on 30 years of incredible Ruby history. And it was a real cozy presentation. It was really amazing to look back and just to collectively be proud of everything we do. But my talk is about the future and dealing with uncertainty and hopefully thriving. And the future is less, inherently cozy. It can be a little scary, especially when there's been a lot of changes in the industry. And I hope to provide some ideas about making the most of it. And I promise that everyone in this room is really in a good place to do well going forward in our industry and to keep growing, and for this awesome community and this awesome programming language to continue to thrive. And I hope to provide some ideas in terms of how that's going to happen. First of all, if you don't thrive in uncertainty, you're probably not a Ruby programmer. For example, a Java developer would throw up in their mouths knowing that A and B could be literally anything. A Ruby developer says, "Hold my beer while I monkey patch the compiler." So about me, I'm the creator of Forum, which is our company, and we power Dev, a website that reaches millions of software developers around the world, and we try our best to be helpful and to provide online community for folks to read and write about our industry and to keep up and to thrive in uncertainty. And about myself, I'm visiting from New York, where I live. I'm originally from Halifax, Nova Scotia, Canada. When I've told people where I'm from, they say, "Oh, is that near Vancouver?" And I say, "No, not at all. I've never been anywhere close." But what is it like growing up in Nova Scotia? Well, when I was about 8 or 9 years old, I was the 2-time mutton busting champion at the Atlantic Winter Fair. And mutton busting is a sport where children ride sheep as long as they can. And if it's not very popular in this part of the world, I can assure you it's also very weird in that part of the world. I have no idea why my parents stuck me on sheep. But it made me who I am. Anyway, Dev is a website which hosts all sorts of really awesome and valuable content, such as "Is Ruby dead?" and "Is Ruby on Rails dead?" I think there's a rule that if you give programmers a platform on the internet, they are going to ask if Ruby's dead. Thankfully, there are more efficient ways to find the answer, such as this website is rubydead.com, with the answer being no. But this website was first created in the old times, before ChatGPT, before OpenAI. I think a lot of things are changing in our industry, and it begs some questions. If I can describe the software I want to write using natural language, what is the point of Ruby? And I'm not here to answer this question, but I think these things are, a little bit concerning for our community sometimes. I don't think they're concerning all the time for everybody, and I think the answer is kind of no, it's not a problem. But, what about if I ask the question, if my code is generated by AI, is Ruby perfect? Because intuitive code readability is going to be that much more important in the future. So if all sorts of people are generating code with AI, do we want it to generate bit code, or do we want it to generate Ruby? So we can introspect and read the code and ensure some amount of quality as much as we possibly can. Other questions, will Mats decide that Tish was better than Ruby after all, and we'll all start being Tish developers? Or will robots take my job? And I think the answer is no, but I think there, is a lot of reason to think that things are going to start evolving even faster than they have evolved in the past. I think that's just where we are right now as an industry. And I think understanding and dealing with the question of, is Ruby going to go away, or is it going to thrive more than ever? I think it's incredibly complicated, incredibly difficult to predict, and not worth necessarily predicting, but worth understanding and having mechanisms for making the most of it and thriving. Here's an interesting comic I really like. It's from 2014. One character asks to check if a picture is taken in the national park. The person says, "Oh, no problem. Okay, takes a couple hours. Okay, check whether it's a bird," and they'll say, "Okay, give me 5 years." And the idea is that if you're not an expert, it's really hard to predict whether something is basically simple as heck or basically impossible. This comic was from 2014, the year of the Ice Bucket Challenge, if anyone remembers that. 2015, kind of all of a sudden became really easy to find out if there was a bird in the picture. And that's just kind of how quickly things can change sometimes. You sort of feel like you have a pretty solid grasp that this is easy, this is impossible. And then all of a sudden, you read a news story, Twitter's blowing up, X is blowing up, and there's a whole new way of doing things. And how do we prepare as individual professionals who want to thrive in the industry, get promoted, work reasonable hours, understand where things are going, understand where they're coming, meet new coworkers, go to conferences. How do we all do this in the most effective, grounded possible way? And I'm not here to give you specific answers, but I do want to provide some good, solid ideas which are based in some research and I think help ground a lot of the mechanisms you're already doing to thrive with uncertainty. And the way I'm going to do that is describe a lot of concepts that were illuminated in this book called Range. And, I'm sure that parts of this book are really, well-grounded and can be checked. And then, parts probably aren't as true as the author, makes them out to be. They could be debunked in a few years. But I think a lot of the premises in this book are a really good way to think about uncertainty in the future. And the book was written a few years ago. It's not talking about, today, but I think some of these things are principled and pretty foundational. So the book talks about the differences between specialists and generalists. And specialists tend to thrive in kind environments. So that's, games with a specific grounded set of rules. Think chess, golf, and to some extent, like writing one program. Like you're working within a sandbox. You are trying to achieve a solution, and you can get pretty quick feedback. You can, understand how to make it work. Generalists tend to thrive in wicked environments where they can, where problem solving is a lot more difficult. There are a lot more variables, and there are a lot of outcomes, and the broad ranges of experiences are what it takes to, achieve success in these types of environments. And I think wicked environments are real world programming, and in an increasing capacity, I think our industry is becoming ever more wicked in this way. I think there's more platforms to support, there are more programming languages to learn, there's more technology coming out every day, more funding going into random ideas, and in an ever increasing capacity, our industry is a wicked environment. So how do generalists succeed in wicked environments? So generalists use cross-disciplinary insights. So knowledge from one domain can apply to another domain really, really consistently, whereas specialists, when they get slightly outside of the domain, they get lost a lot quicker. So by taking one thing that they really understand well, applying it to another, using cross-disciplinary insights, generalists really thrive in this capacity. Generalists tend to be more adaptable. So if you have learned a lot of skills along the way, and you're coping with an uncertain situation, you don't have a single methodology or framework to deal with the situation. You can draw on an abundance of different experiences to ultimately thrive in that environment. We generalists, and I really think this room is full of generalists. I think Ruby developers are intrinsically generalist developers a lot of the time. I think our skills as Ruby developers can apply as generalists to some of these new technologies which are coming out. And I think we can take some of these generalist skills and apply abstract thinking. Mats talked about how programming is not physical, and that's why naming things is so important. That's why thinking abstractly and being able to sort of take one experience and creating a metaphor is so important. And the more specialized you are, the less capable you are of solving problems in this capacity, developing metaphors, understanding how one problem can be seen from a different perspective. And that takes us to the next point of problem reformulation. So reframing and understanding an issue from a different perspective is really critical for taking something that you've never seen before, some new technology that's coming out, and understanding it from the perspective that's really going to let you solve the problem truly effectively. And collaboration and communication. So there's a lot more to succeeding in a wicked environment than just applying yourself to the problem at hand. And so I think this applies to wicked environments of all kinds. Anything that we're going to do that's going to be more challenging tomorrow than what we did today tends to involve teamwork, new things, reaching out to people, learning, asking the right questions. And if the more specialized you are, the less capable you are of kind of taking on different problems in different ways, the less likely you're going to be able to collaborate effectively and to truly adapt and thrive. And then ultimately, comfort with ambiguity is everything. So thriving in uncertainty is really about understanding ambiguous situations and really making the most of them. And ultimately being gritty and resilient, learning all the time, and really making the most of everything that comes our way. So it's really going to be a challenge for all of us. I think it's it's not necessarily going to be clear exactly what our jobs are going to look like in 2024, in 2025, and 2026. The next 30 years of Ruby probably aren't going to look like the last 30. But if you're comfortable, grounding yourself with the confidence that you can take on new challenges and that your skills from one domain are going to apply really effectively to another, I think we're all going to do really great in the next 30 years of Ruby. And thank you all for coming to this conference, and thank you all for coming to my talk. And I really hope everyone enjoys the rest of their time in Bangkok if they're traveling, or safe travels home no matter what. So thank you, everyone.